Charlemagne, we live?
It looks like it.
Charlemagne, are we live?
Yeah, we live. We got somebody watching. Let's go.
Let me pull up the thing, make sure I can pull it up. All right, who we got? We got one person watching. All right, let me send this link out.
Mike Jones.
Mike Jones.
Shout out to Mike Jones.
Shout out to Mike Jones. Yo, we are live. We are wrapping up James's mock draft 2.0. We did one last night. Man, it was like 2 hours, like 2 hours and 6 minutes or something like that.
I'm still tired.
Still tired, man. I've done at least 5 podcasts today. At least 5 podcasts today. So I'm tired. Mike Jones said the most boring NBA finals of all time. I disagree, man. Man, it's like they're picking up full court. These dudes are playing hard.
Fouling.
I mean, it's the stuff that people complain about. Oh, man, the mid-range game is dead. They shoot too many threes. We see mid-range jumpers.
Right, Oklahoma City. They won a game where they made 3 threes. Like, that's vintage 1990s basketball.
Yeah, man. They're playing D. They're picking up full court.
Jalen Williams was amazing tonight.
Yeah, man. So, no high-level basketball. Man, you tripping. I think it's good basketball. I think if you switch to jerseys and put a Lakers jersey on one of the teams and a Knicks jerseys and all that everybody be talking about how this is a historic finals. But, man, this is just parody, man. Parody has changed the game. All right, let's get right into this. Right now, we got 7 people. Leaf Tulane is supposed to join us, but Leaf missing an accent. I agree. Elite hoops. Good basketball, man. All right, let's get right into it. So let's give a recap of yesterday's long show. All right. At number 30, James had the LA Clippers going with Yannick Conan Niederhauser. At number 29, he had the Phoenix Suns going with Israeli guard Ben Saraf. At 28, he had the Boston Celtics going with Will Riley, who got a invite to the green room. So the NBA thinks he's going to go higher than 29. At 27, he had my man Hanson Yang, part of the Yang gang. And number 26, he had Nolan Traore, who was also invited to the green room today. At 25, so the 26 and 27 were with the Brooklyn Nets. 25, the Orlando Magic. James had them going with Walter Clayton Jr. At 24, he had the Oklahoma City Thunder going with French prospect Noah Penda. At 23, he had the Indiana Pacers going with Danny Wolf. 22, the Atlanta Hawks, Drake Powell. Ace Sanul at 21 to the Jazz. Jace Richardson, who did not get an invite so far to the green room. James has been going number 20 to the Miami Heat. Then he has Yegor Dimon falling to number 19 to the Brooklyn Nets.
Not falling if I had him in this range the whole time.
Some people think he's a lottery pick. He had Maxime Reynaud going to the Wizards at number 18, joining the French connection, the Les Wizards, with Alex Sarr, Bilal Koulibaly. Yeah, Reynaud. I think Keyshawn George played in France.
Yeah, he might even speak French. So.
Got to speak French. At number 17, he had the Minnesota Timberwolves going with Thomas Sorber. At number 16, with their new pick from the Desmond Bane trade, he had the Memphis Grizzlies going with Kyler Murray Boyles. At number 15, he had Nick Clifford, who has not received an invite yet in the green room, going number 15 to the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Thunder don't need 2 picks. At number 14, he has Carter Bryant going to the San Antonio Spurs. I think James might be having a change of heart.
Man, no spoilers, man. No spoilers.
At number 13, he has the Atlanta Hawks going with Rasheer Fleming. At number 12, Cedric Coward going to the Bulls. At number 11, the Blazers going with Kaspar Jakachonis. Number 10, this was seen as controversial. He has the Houston Rockets going with Con Kneppel. He has,
if they even keep the pick.
Yeah. Toronto Raptors going with Kamen Maliwash at number 9. At number 8, Noah Asingbe landing with the Brooklyn Nets. Asingbe got an invite to the green room today. Number 7, yes, the New Orleans Pelicans going with Jeremiah Fears. And number 6, the Washington Wizards going with an American prospect.
Nah, he's not. He's from Baltimore.
From Baltimore, not Baltimore.
Baltimore.
Derek Queen. All right. At number 5, you have the Utah Jazz. Actually, before that, let's look at some of the questions. James got VJ over Fears. Wow.
No. He made that up.
Yeah. Ryan Robertson. Raf, please climb inside Daryl Morey's brain and select Trey Johnson. Well, Daryl Morey actually follows me on Twitter.
Oh.
And I've posted that I like Trey Johnson for
Sixers at number everybody, 3. Man.
I ain't flexing. I'm just saying, he asked me
to want you to flex
his brain, so I'm just letting him know, like, he might have seen my tweets. If he's on Twitter, he might have seen my tweets. So that was actually one of the first follows that I got when I was like, oh snap. Like, he knows who I am, but I still feel like they might not know who I am. Because I be seeing these cats at the combine and they don't say nothing to me. I don't say nothing to them. So who knows? Anyway, let's get right into it. The Utah Jazz at number 5. Who do you have the Jazz going with?
I got the Utah Jazz selecting Trey Johnson here. And I know Raf wants Trey Johnson in Philadelphia. I'm not necessarily opposed to that, but I feel like he's not going to be the selection there. And if it's a mathematical decision, then you probably go with Trey Johnson because the numbers definitely favor him over Ace Bailey. But I got the Jazz selecting Trey Johnson.
Man, Ace.
Freshman, led the SEC in scoring out of Texas. Dynamic. I told Ralph probably 4 years ago, that kid's an NBA player. He plays exactly the same way he played in high school. He's a bucket. I feel like that's exactly what the Utah Jazz need. They needed somebody bigger at the shooting guard position. You can't keep throwing out 6'2", Colin Sexton, and I think it's time to move on from Jordan Clarkson. And they need some firepower in the backcourt. And I believe Trey Johnson has plenty of firepower. Definitely needs to improve his rim frequency, but I think he has a lot to show, especially as a pick and roll ball handler, which I think he will become more of in Utah. Very underrated passer. So high on Trey Johnson.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like he should be the number 3 pick.
We'll get there, man.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm Utah, I feel like I'm in a good situation because you're going to get someone. You're going to get an upgrade. You should be able to get an upgrade. I just think if I'm Utah, man, you just need some dogs, man. You need an irrational confidence dog. Like, they got some nice guys. Like, they drafted some really, really nice guys on the wings, man. Like Taylor Hendricks is a really nice guy. I think that Cody Williams is a really, really nice guy. If you leave him open, he's going to think about his teammates first, and he's going to pass the ball, and he's really nice. I think they need a dog, like a dog, not someone that's going to fit in the system. They need someone that's going to stand out. And I think Trey Johnson could be that guy, but it's not my mock. But Trey Johnson would not be falling to number 5 if it were up to me. So this is where I'm confused at. All right. Number 4, you got the Charlotte Hornets. You got the Charlotte Hornets taking VJ Edgecombe.
Yes.
Are you saying that VJ is better than Trey Johnson?
No, it's not. It's not always about what's better. It's about fit.
What is it about? At this point in the top 5, man, you don't draft for fit, do you?
In a sense, you do. Okay, so if you're the Charlotte Hornets and LaMelo Ball doesn't get to the foul line, and then Brandon Miller doesn't get to the foul line, do you draft another dynamic scorer, dynamic shooter, and Trey Johnson, who his biggest weakness is creating paint touches? Like, what are we doing? You got to have some variance. You don't want 3 of the same player out there because then you become easy to guard, right? And then, like, LaMelo's shot selection is questionable. He's going to shoot some one-legged shots.
LaMelo play like there's nothing but baddies in the crowd.
And unfortunately, like, when you play like baddies in the crowd, you end up with the 4th pick in the draft on top of, injury.
He just got to work on them ankles. Just got to get his ankles right.
I'm just saying this. If you feel like VJ Edgecombe, who should be able to play off of those guys, attack closeouts, uh, create open jump shots. His defense is a little bit on the overrated side, but he's got the physical tools to be a good defender. We know he's going to rebound, and he's a ball mover. I feel like he just complements the guys that you already have in place. Like, I don't know. I don't want three guys out there who are above average shooters who aren't creating paint touches, get to the foul line. Like, you got to get to the line. Like, we just watched this Oklahoma City game where I felt like SGA had a quiet night and he shot like 13 free throws. Jalen Williams shot at least 8 free throws. Like, you got to create paint touches. And I feel like VJ Edgecombe playing alongside LaMelo, alongside Brandon Miller, like, he's going to get paint touches because we know LaMelo's a very good passer. And then if the three-point shooting is good, you chase VJ off the line. He's got a launching pad. The rim finish has got to get better, but he's got a launching pad. He will try to bang on you. And I just think he's a great complementary piece. Again, that's not any shade towards Trey Johnson. It's just that I can't build a team with, we just shooting a bunch of contested jumpers.
Their free throw attempts per game were nearly identical.
Their usage wasn't identical.
Nearly identical. So, yeah, 4.3.
You gotta dig deeper in like their free throw attempts. You gotta think like drives per game. You gotta think usage, like especially when we split hairs between shooting guards. And
I get that, but if one doesn't get to the rim and one supposedly does, their free throw percentages should not be equal at 4.
Yeah, but all free throw attempts aren't created from rim pressure. So, Ralph, like, if we in the bonus, and my man chucked me, like, that's a free throw attempt, yes, but that's not a paint touch.
But VJ, again, he gets maybe the reason why he doesn't get to the line like you think he should, due to his athleticism, is because he wasn't an efficient finisher at the rim. I'm just trying to figure out, like. I think deep down inside, you like Trey Johnson better than VJ Edgecombe.
I think deep down is, but here's the thing, though. Here's my thing. I like Trey Johnson. I like his output. I like him for his career to be a potential all-star better in Utah than I do in Charlotte. And I feel like I like VJ Edgecombe's ultimate output in Charlotte better than I like it in Utah. So it's like it's not just
to me. I mean, I like Dylan Harper better in Philly than I do San Antonio, but I'm not.
And that's why you hear the
number 3 because I like him there better.
But that's why you hear the rumors about Philadelphia trying to possibly move up to 2.
I don't even know how legit that is. I mean, the wording was careful. The wording said Philadelphia has engaged. Like if I call a GM right now. And say, man, I'm interested.
Hey, man, there's a youngster out there on the internet that's engaging in with agents and running around with, like, he got sources. But
yeah, if I call, Nico Harrison, I don't have his number, but if I email him, does that mean I'm engaging?
I mean, that's true.
It's engaging with the Dallas Mavericks for a job.
I mean, like I said, man, I just feel like at 4, if I'm Charlotte, there's a certain level of redundancy, man. And what they don't have, the Charlotte Hornets, is somebody that can create paint touches off of who's a natural driver. And again, PJ needs to get better at the rim. Super athletic. He shouldn't, his efficiency at the rim should improve as he gets older. And then like you said, man, like you've been telling me for the past few days, man, they need some high, and I'm not saying Trey Johnson isn't, but they need some high character guys in that locker room. I'm not taking Con Kneppel here at 4. Like, I don't care. He was the Pope himself. I'm not taking him at 4. I'd rather just go with VJ. So, yeah, man.
I'm biased. I think Trey should be at number 3. But anyway, VJ Edgecombe, how do you like the fit in Charlotte? Like, what do you think Charlotte could do to maximize his game?
So he can maximize his game. I think you need to eventually move off of Miles Bridges, but at all points, you should have 2 of the 3 of those guys on the court in your rotations. I mean, at the 6-minute mark, you say, all right, Brandon Miller, you're the point forward. We'll take LaMelo out. He'll start the first 12 of the second quarter, and then there's more ball reps for VJ Edgecombe as he develops. But, like, with that rotation of 6'5", 6'8", 6'8", and then you say, VJ, I need you to defend the point guard because you have the physical tools. LaMelo, you go hide on that corner boy, 3-and-D guy, because you kind of food on defense, and Brandon Miller improves as a defender. And we know Brandon Miller, like, shout out to Brandon Miller. They were bad his first year. And, like, you could tell he was frustrated. You know what I'm saying? Like, he cared. I just feel like those three guys complement each other and what they're trying to do. Versus, like, Trey Johnson. Again, I think Trey can play with anybody because he's probably the best shooter in this draft. But I feel like just, like, you need some kind of like yin and yang as far as how you're going to piece your backcourt players together. So that's why I like VJ there. That's why I like Trey in Utah. Again, if you feel like, you know, if Trey Johnson's there at 5, if you're Utah and you take him, you say, you know, Isaiah Collier, we're going to start you. We'll give you another year to see if you know how this works. Isaiah Collier can't shoot, but he's going to create paint touches like crazy because that's what he does. And now Trey Johnson, you know what I'm saying? He come off those pin downs. He's going to get wide open shots. We already know he's definitely not afraid to get him up. Like, that's a great spot for him as a developing guard.
Now, if I'm Utah, I want Trey Johnson because I think that he has the best chance of being a 25-point-per-game scorer. So,
hold on. Do you think Trey Johnson has the opportunity to be a 25-point-per-game scorer in Charlotte?
Yeah, because them dudes not going to play the whole season. And if you leave Trey Johnson,
we're gonna be in the lottery for the rest of our lives.
But I mean, like in Charlotte, Trey, he might get you buckets just because he's not gonna miss open threes. I mean, he's one of the best like movement 3-point shooters.
I don't know about Trey Johnson. I'm just saying, like, that would be 3 jump shot reliant guys. What team is having success with 3 jump shot reliant guys not named the Golden State Warriors of 2018?
I mean, like, that's what with Miles Bridges with all that spacing, man, get downhill. Trey Man is gonna look to get downhill.
I think you're a terrible team with no hope if that's what, like, if those are your guys. You know what I'm saying? Like, and
you're saying like, hey, we want this guy that's a slasher, but yeah, he didn't make a lot of his shots, even though he was a good slasher. So,
but at the same time, though, is what you projected him to be in the future. Like, again, let's look at the drives per game. Let's look at what it looked like when he wasn't playing.
That was my thing, though. I felt like he didn't get to the rim as enough as he should have because I felt like he's too straight up.
Yeah, that's true.
He doesn't get low, and I would think with his athletic tools and him being a slasher and that being his main trait, he would be like,
but at the same time,
getting downhill.
Like, but at the same time, though, like you saw him get low. You saw paint field goal attempts in the Bahamas when he was playing in a spaced out NBA system and he wasn't playing clogged up college basketball.
I agree. And
so, but again, if I'm saying this, Ralph, if I sit here and say, you know what, dang, I saw VJ, like, he was trying to really bang on cats in the Bahamas. I think they were in the Bahamas, wherever it was, playing for the Bahamas. Like, look at the paint touches that he created with spacing. If I pair him with LaMelo Ball, like, oh, shoot.
Do you know anybody that they played against in that tournament?
I have to go back and look, but there was some NBA talent out there. I think they played they played somebody. I have to look.
But was he? You know what I mean?
What'd you say?
I mean, they played Spain. They lost. I mean, they had
they played Serbia too.
Multiple NBA players, and they didn't even qualify for the Olympics.
Man, because they had redacted playing center, man.
They had Buddy Hield, Eric Gordon, and VJ. And yes, VJ was impressive, but they didn't qualify for the Olympics with Eric more Gordon, NBA players than some of their opponents.
Or Eric Gordon is 38 trying to play point guard, man.
I mean, hey. So anyway, with that being said, all right, James a little tired. And number 3.
Let me hold on. Let's do some questions real quick, man.
All right, let's see what Mike Jones hating about right now.
Who you hating on?
Mike Jones trolling again. Yep. Simeon Brown, you know Mike Jones. He trolling. I think Mike Jones, you know what? I think Mike Jones, shout out to Mike Jones, though. He's on every post. I think Mike Jones is an engagement farmer. I'm surprised he hasn't mentioned that guy that's going to go number 1 yet.
Oh,
It's
he did.
coming though.
He did. He definitely did. Hold
He
on,
did.
hold on. No, there's no way he did not. Oh, somebody else mentioned him. Wait. It's gonna be up there. It's early. It's early. It's early. And what did 50 Cent say to Floyd Mayweather? Floyd Mayweather, I dare you to go a whole podcast without mentioning Cooper Flagg, Mike Jones. All right, so
this is live. Spirit asked, is this live or replay from the other night, man? We live. We live in color. I'm tired. I've done 5 podcasts today. 5 podcasts.
Maxie doesn't get to the rim.
VJ equal Tony Delk. I love some of these comparisons. I know sometimes people are trolling.
That's funny. Hey, Tony Delk's still in shape.
Tony Delk. Man, I watched Trey in person give Cason Wallace 40. Hey, man, I actually, it's crazy.
Oh, you was there too, Richard's tummy? I was there.
I talked about that, man. I'm rubbing my eyes, but I'm tired. I talked about that on Pee Wee the Plug's podcast, and it got clipped up. They clipped it up and then put like the real clips from that game on there. And then there was people in the comments talking about they was hating, they was mad, and I wasn't like talking bad about Cason, and I didn't even say like Cason ate all of those buckets, but he was a sophomore, and that team did have Rylan Griffin, where's he at? Texas A&M now?
Dang.
Rylan Griffin had some NBA draft buzz a year ago. But yeah, Trey Johnson, I mean, he's one of my favorite guys. One of the things I like about Trey, this ain't even related to who.
Cooper Flagg gatekeeping. He couldn't hold out. There you go.
One of my things I like about Trey Johnson, it's not even related to hoop. My man might be the only like highly rated player that I've ever seen that has like no entourage. Like it's just that dude to be at a high school tournament and he just by himself, man. He just be in some PJs and some flip-flops. If you see him with somebody, he's with his dad. I done seen dudes that they come into the gym. I mean, entourage, uncle, cousin, homeboy, somebody hold their shoes.
Trey move around the city.
Basketball. Trey don't even bring rebounders with him. He just move on his own, and he's all about hoop. That's what I like about him. He's all about hoop. Not saying, it's wrong for guys to have other interests outside the court, but when I'm predicting Trey to be like this dude that's just not an NBA lifestyle guy. Not a guy that's gonna get caught up in the big city and the money, man. He just
that's why I like him in Utah, man. Ain't nothing to do but hoop in Utah. No offense to Leaf and them, but nothing to do. All right, Ralph, number 3.
Hold on. Yo, Rafael, I believe Trey Johnson with that 6'10" wingspan can become a good defender in addition to a 3-level scorer. Hornets should draft him absolutely. Yeah.
I don't know.
All right, number 3, Ace Bailey. Is Ace the most polarizing player in this draft?
I think Colin Murray Boyles is. And the reason why I think Colin Murray Boyles is more polarizing is because I feel like Ace has less fans than he did at the start of the season. Yeah, that's why I think he's, well, it depends on who you ask. But so at number 3, I got the Philadelphia 76ers taking Ace Bailey. I feel like Ace Bailey is exactly what they need as far as defensive potential, shot making potential, and upside. Because Kelly Oubre is unrestricted free agent. Who knows what Kelly Oubre is doing every possession? You don't know what you're going to get from him. Quentin Grimes was hooping last year, and maybe he's just unaffordable because excuse me, he played so well last year.
I don't know who's gonna pay him. It's only the Nets and the Pistons got money.
I mean, if I'm the Pistons and you're like,
they had him. That's how.
Yeah, but that was under a different coaching regime. Like, yeah.
But I don't know, the same front office.
It's a whole different everything.
I know, but they're the ones that's how he got to Dallas last summer, if I'm not mistaken. They had to move him. Yeah,
I don't think so.
He was with Dallas. He's part of the Tim Hardaway Jr. trade.
I know, but I'm saying maybe you're right. Yeah. But even then, if you bring back Quentin Grimes, right, and you start Quentin Grimes, so let's say I don't think they bring Oubre back because they got to pay people. But let's say Philadelphia starts Maxey at the 1. They start best pure scoring prospect ever. See, like that's wild. When you shoot sub 70% from the free throw line and like 34% from the mid range, or not the mid range, from the 3, like that's kind of wild. I you know what? Before I get on this Ace Bailey to the 76ers, I think people see what AJ Debanza is and think that's what Ace Bailey is, but like they're not the same player. And I think that's what you want to see, because AJ is legit 6'10". Like that's not that fake 6'10" that Ace tricked us all with. But like he's got legit handles, he's got legit shot creation. He looks like Tracy McGrady reincarnated. Whereas Ace was like, it was a lot of pivot work, contested mid-range jumper. And like I was, telling you guys during the season, like those games where he got loose, like against Indiana, like they lost those games, man. And it's like, that's just not gonna work. But I say that to say this: if I'm the Philadelphia 76ers, I'm taking a 6'8" wing who has defensive potential, and we're gonna get him playing with Paul George. We're gonna get him playing and acclimated to trying to play winning basketball. And there's not gonna be any logo ISOs, because like that's just not gonna fly. And I think that in that position he's good. So with that being said, I'm taking him number 3 over Trey Johnson for the defensive upside, not because of the offense. I don't think offense isn't Philadelphia's issue. It's health for one, but also can you defend on the wing? Paul George's best days as a defender are behind him. Somebody had him dancing last year. I forgot who it was.
I mean, Luka always made Paul George touch the ground.
Man, somebody made him touch the ground last year too. I'm so mad I can't remember. But anyway, his best days are behind him as like your primary defender. Yeah. Right. And I just feel like Ace at 6'8", plus wingspan, he's got the tools. You just got to lock in. I think that's a good position for him. And now, if then you say, you know what, Ace, in 3 years, when it's you and Tyrese and Jerry McCain, then we can be like, all right, man, let's figure out who you are as a playmaker, ball handler, and go from there.
I like Ace. I really do. I like the upside, but I have some concerns about the overall feel for the game.
But I said all my thing, Rob. I said all this from the
I know that. I have some concerns about the feel. I have some concerns that when he can't create off the dribble, it turns into a stop and pop. I love the stop and pop jumper. I love the fact that he can stop, pull up, and shoot over the top of anybody. I think there's just such a variance. I think Ryan Robertson said something. He just posted. People love the idea of Ace, not what he actually is. I think part of the appeal for Ace is because he kind of came out of nowhere. He wasn't the guy that we was talking about when he was in 9th grade, 10th grade. He was a kind of like a late blooming, a late ascending prospect. I think on one hand, I think it's fair to say that he did what he was supposed to do, which was maintain his draft stock that he had entering the season. He had some really good moments, but I think that it was just hot and cold. Like he had some games where, and I thought Ace had a chance to be the number 1 pick coming into the season. He just had some games where it was like, man, I wish he could do more. Like he had the 13 for 15 game against Penn State. The next game, 4 for 17. He had the 13 for 20 game against Northwestern. Next game, 3 for 15. Illinois, he was 7 of 13. He just has some stretches where it's like, all right, he's not making free throws like he should. Then I thought the rebounding was good.
Then he had a stretch of like 8 games where he had no assists. I mean, 8 might be, some exaggeration.
Might be legit though. I mean, like he averaged 2.2 turnovers and 1.4 assists per game.
So right, so like if you just take out your like fandom, how is he? And again, I still think he's a number 3 pick, but I also think that eventually it fits. It's like, you know what? Let me play off of guys. Let me be.
Hold on. I want to read this. Okay. All right. Watch him play. I see Carmelo Anthony. You got to go back to this episode where James and I talked about Carmelo Anthony, right? You can't be Carmelo Anthony without the wide butt and the strength.
There's no such thing as a skinny Carmelo Anthony.
Yeah, what made Melo unguardable was he was stronger than everybody. So you can't say Ace has a physical advantage. And Melo had a first step and he got to the rim. Ace plays like Carmelo without the strength.
Regulator. Have either of you chatted with Ace? Do you have a feel for his maturity heading to the NBA? Thanks. No, I never talked to Ace, and I don't want to sit here and speculate on his maturity too much. But he does have some irrational. He's got some quotes that some people could take the wrong way as far
as
his
quotes.
His maturity, and I don't have an issue with either.
I love the quotes.
So if you don't know, I'm saying like the quote of they asked him about his shot selection. He's like, "These are bad shots if you don't practice them." I don't have an issue with him saying that. I mean, what are you supposed to say when somebody asks you about how you play? Like,
yeah, I mean, he's saying what's on his mind. He's not saying the politically correct quote that the media wants him to say. I like guys like that. I like when Deion Waiters was like, whatever he said, like, if you stop shooting, that means you don't have confidence, something along those lines. I like Ace. I do think that he has a lot to work on. I think he obviously needs to get stronger. I think he needs to improve his handle. It's a lot of stationary handle.
Let me tell you something about his handle, though. I think, and even like just that little clip, this is just my opinion, right? I don't think he has I think he's too upright for him to have a really good handle. I don't think he just doesn't look comfortable handling the basketball. Outside of like a couple of dribbles, that's going to be like further down the line for him. And in Philadelphia, I just don't foresee an opportunity for him to handle the ball like that. You know what I'm saying? Just because like they got guys that's going to handle the ball. But
I want to ask the audience this, and this is going to be a historic draft in a sense that, in some cases, 2 of the top 3 picks are going to be on a team that didn't win. So, and I actually talked to someone about this, and they were like, are we really going to see 2 guys that couldn't lead their team to the NCAA tournament go 2-3? And I do feel like Rutgers' season, people are blaming their lack of, like, Ace gets majority of the blame, not Dylan Harper, when they were equally on the same team.
And so they'll say, man, the coaching staff was this, the players, the other team wasn't this. But, like, y'all chose that school.
Yeah, I mean, but, like, I do feel like there were freshmen that didn't have another NBA prospect on their team that did better in a tougher conference. So with that being said, I was looking at some numbers, right? Let's see if I can pull them up. I thought I did it. How rare do you think it is for a draft where the top 3 players make an all-star team?
How rare is it?
Yeah.
It's very rare. Usually, historically, I think like the number 2 pick, it doesn't pan out as far as the top 3 guys.
Well, there's been 5 drafts since 1990 where all top 3 picks made at least one all-star. 5 since 1990. What is that? Is that 35 years?
Let me see if I can name them. 91, 92?
Nope, 92.
That was a Shaq draft.
Shaq, Zoe, Leitner made an all-star.
Yeah. I would say 2003, but they took Darko number 2, so it's not 2003.
94, Glenn Robinson, Jason Kidd, Grant Hill.
Grant Hill.
97, Tim Duncan. Did Keith Van Horn make an all-star team? Probably one.
Had to. He made some bread.
Chauncey Billups. 99, Elton Brand, Steve Francis, Baron Davis. 2016, Ben Simmons, Brandon Ingram, Jaylen Brown. Since 1990, only 5 drafts. No, because the Iverson draft, who was number 2? Camby.
Camby wasn't an all-star. He was good, but he wasn't.
Who was number 3 in that draft?
Abdurrahim? Who was 4?
It's only 5 drafts ever. I mean, not ever. 5 drafts since 1990 in the last 35 years where 3 guys became an all-star. This year, like, do you think these top 3 guys are going to be all-stars? I think this draft is a wild card. I think it could be a situation where one could, I mean, you could have a guy that goes 5 that ends up having a better career than who goes number 3. I think
I
it's
agree with you.
crazy
That's
draft.
and a lot of it is fit. A lot of it is who thinks that they made it once that they've been drafted. A lot of it is, over evaluating of guys' weaknesses, talents. I mean, it's just so much that plays into it.
You know
And
what?
really, shoot, in this current era that we're in now, like, yo, it's gonna be even harder because like let's say in 2 years, Dylan Harper, wherever he is, but let's say in 2 years he averages like 23, 5-5. That's not even like an all-star in the West if he's a Spur. Because guess what? In 2 years, Steph Curry's still gonna be playing. Steph Curry probably still 25 point per game guy as long as he can run up and down the court and play defense. Like we're in it's a weird era because the old guys are still cold at basketball. And like I feel like the talent level in today's NBA is it's unbelievable. Like Jalen Williams, he just had 40 tonight. Looks like he's gonna be an all-star for a while as long as he's healthy. So it's gonna be hard to like uproot guys. But
Yeah. But let's get back to Ace though. Like I said, I get the appeal for Ace. I do have my concerns.
hold on, Mike Jones, he got work on your block. Dunk Holiday got work on your block.
That's Mike Jones. That's gotta be Mike
burner
Jones' burner account.
He taking work off your table, man.
Because they both saying the same thing. Someone says, love the banter in this format, guys. Like how Rafael is challenging James. Would like to see the roles reversed sometimes. Keep it up. Yeah, James challenges me. But this is James's board, so I'm just giving him.
Would you compare Ace's comments at the combine to those made by Ant-Man during his draft interviews?
That's fair. I mean, Anthony Edwards is a great interview, not a polished interview. It's not scripted. It's not coached by someone saying this is the correct thing to say. Anthony Edwards just shoots off. I mean, what's on his mind? I respect that about him. Sometimes it may get him in trouble. Sometimes it is absolutely hilarious. But I saw nothing wrong with Ace's comments because I love the confidence. But you can look at his game. You can watch him play and tell that he doesn't lack confidence at all. Sometimes his confidence gets him in trouble because he takes some very, very difficult shots. But that's the appeal of him. He's a tough shot taker, tough shot maker. But it's an Atlanta thing. But Ace from Chattanooga, Tennessee, if I'm not mistaken.
They claiming him.
I mean, he got rerouted to Atlanta. Shout out to Coop.
Mike Jones.
What was
Cooper's ranking those shooting drills at the combine? We don't care about combine.
Behind Mark Sears. I mean, like
right, everybody was behind Mark.
Lit up those shooting drills. If we go by shooting drills, then we talking about Mike Sears. Or Mark Sears.
We don't care about shooting drills.
I don't care about shooting drills. I don't care about the combine, to be honest with you. The combine
it's cool, but I'm not putting too much stock in one-on-none shooting, athletic testing, backpedaling to cone. Like, you don't do that. Cones don't move. Cones don't have handles. So I don't care about that stuff.
You know what's interesting, though? I think by them forcing the top guys to participate in the combine, I wonder, is it going to be something going forward where we're going to see guys just really not care? Like, I felt like Derek Queen
didn't
care. I felt like Cooper didn't give his best. I mean, I don't even remember anybody talking about Dylan Harper doing anything.
But I mean, it's like, here's the thing. And this is why the combine partially is fake. Like, big Trey Johnson fan. He measured well. The good thing for Trey Johnson at the combine was the 6'10" wingspan. Then he said he had a 37.5-inch vertical. Trey Johnson, you'll see a 37.5-inch vertical on a fast break dunk. You're not going to see it in the half court.
No, I tell you something. I saw Trey Johnson play some guys one-on-one. So imagine this. They playing ones. Trey got the ball on the right wing. He's driving right. And he takes off, going against his body, and tried to bang and dunk on a dude. I'm talking like it was like, think about it. You're driving right. His momentum was carrying him past the hoop, and he took off and went to dunk with the left. 1-on-1. No launching pad, nothing. He missed the dunk. I think I still got the footage I was filming. That's when I was like, all right, he's a much better
Hey,
athlete.
you should put it out and blur the dude's face he tried to dunk on.
I mean, the internet is smart. They're gonna figure out who it is.
I think that, but you know what though? I do think Trey Johnson in the NBA with NBA spacing, you'll have more opportunities for him to create like posterizing dunk, and you'll see his athleticism a little bit more. But at the same time, he's just like, you know, at the rim in traffic, he's like at the rim. And like that's why like him having a 37-inch vertical is not the same as Cooper Flagg, who probably had a 36-inch vertical, who was chilling. Like Cooper Flagg is a dunk on you for real.
Yeah. I want to read this comment. Hey, Rafael and James, when are we gonna get Rafael's board? Even Chris Ford, the old coach for the Celtics.
You're not doing boards.
To give his boards on the podcast alongside the newsletter. I do have a big board. I put it out. The problem is if I put everything out for free, then nobody's gonna subscribe to my newsletter. So why would anybody subscribe if my big board is free? But I may do it for the draft. But yeah, man. I mean, James, I let James put out his big board. So
hold on real quick. How do you feel about Trey Johnson's fit with the Sixers? Does Maxey pull for his childhood friend? Oh man, I don't even know if they grew up together, man. I don't know, man. Maxey they from Garland, but Maxey, they imported him into Garland. They imported Trey Johnson.
Yeah, but I think it's like, let me think. It's got to be a 4-year difference. I mean, I'm sure they know each other. I'm sure their pops knows each other, but
for sure.
But Maxey graduated high school in what, 2019?
Yeah.
And Trey graduated in what, 20? Because Maxey's what, 2 years older than Casey?
Might be 2018.
Maxey, I mean,
I think
at
it was
the most it was a freshman and senior, or maybe senior in 8th grade.
But as far as the fit
in NBA spacing, it's not a double standard with Ace. I mean, like again, I get the appeal for Ace.
Oh, my fault, Richard.
I have some questions. I get the appeal for Ace. I question like the processing speed and.
Hold on, Richard, tell me, where'd you go to school at?
Says he went to Trey Rival High School.
Where'd you go to school
Richardson? Where'd you go, Richard's tummy?
Answer the question, Ralph, about Ace, though.
Yeah, I mean, like it's almost like if I'm providing constructive criticism, then it's hating. With anybody else, it's okay. I get it because I mean the same way people about Cooper Flagg. If you say Cooper Flagg is not the perfect prospect, there's people going to hate on you. Then there's people gonna say the same thing with Concanapple.
I used to be.
We got a new. Hold on,
all the time, man. I got cool with the burger people.
Leaf. All right, we got to add one more. What up, man? Turn the lights on, man.
Oh, Leaf.
Let me get those.
That's why we're not putting out free content, man. Leaf can't even keep his lights on, man.
I hustled back too fast. I heard James had a mock, and I came running, as they say. And remember the Titans when Louis Lastic said he heard football and came running. That's how I felt right here.
Man, you know I've never seen Remember the Titans.
Man,
that's a travesty.
It ain't gangster enough for me, man. Somebody got to die for me to watch a movie.
Shoot them up. So let's do this, Rafa. Let me finish up 1 and 2, and then let's do QA for the last whatever. How long we gonna be on? Since Leaf just jumped in. All right. So number 2, I got the Spurs taking Dylan Harper, regardless if they keep the pick or not. I'm a big Dylan Harper fan. Dylan Harper is an athlete, very good athlete. I don't think just because you're not above the rim, I don't think that's an indictment on your athlete. He shot 60-something% at the rim. Like he's legit. He's the good. He splits pick and rolls, strong body. I really hope San Antonio trades the pick and he's in a position to have more usage because I think that Dylan Harper is the goods. The jump shot is, I don't have an issue with his mechanics. I don't have an issue with the jump shot being lower. Nobody can guard Cade Cunningham. Cade Cunningham has a low release. And I think Dylan Harper is a slightly better athlete than a Cade Cunningham. But yeah, I'm a big Dylan Harper fan. Big believer, splits pick and rolls. I think his playmaking is going to be good. And we'll see what he looks like with a vertical lob threat. But I just really, really hope that the San Antonio Spurs trade the pick, get him in a situation where he has a lot more usage. Because, like, Fox, Harper, and Castle is just that's. I mean, as a basketball fan, like that's unfair to like all three of those guys.
I mean, I don't like the fit. Spurs fans might be like Nebraska football fans. Like
They're
they still
wildly
talk like
irrational, man.
like they just won. Like I don't think they won a playoff series since like 2017. Like Cam Ryan would say,
Flagg got
"Remember
hurt.
them days? Man, them days is over." Like I mean, San Antonio. I mean, you can't knock what the franchise has done, but it's hard to get that one cornerstone guy that you can build around, and he makes everything look great. And they had that in Tim Duncan. I mean, obviously Ginobili was a big win. I think he was like the 55th pick, and Tony Parker was good. But you saw once they didn't have that cornerstone, then they were kind of middle of the pack in a sense. But I know a lot of Spurs fans are still talking about the culture and so on. And Dylan Harper's going to fit. He may, but I don't like the fit for him. I don't think you maximize who he is if you put him in a not even secondary ball handler role. So Leaf, what do you think about that fit?
Well, the interesting part about it is I think they made the trade for Fox thinking, you know what, like we have a star, and the new CBA is going to mean that you can try to get a secondary guy for a lot of money if you have a guy that is your primary, your best player for the future that you don't pay a ton yet. Yet they ended up getting great luck in the lottery and getting to number 2, and the best player there is Dylan Harper. Like I don't see any world where they pass him. The only way that it happens is they trade out of that pick for an established player, not for a future pick or a lower pick. So I think that Castle and Harper work well together, and maybe Fox and Castle. I'm a little skeptical about that, but not all three of them. So I think the guy out the window is going to be Fox. I think they're going to go youth movement and make a trade for someone else at a different position, because they could have Wemby, Castle, and Harper all on a similar timeline for a long time, and then find someone to be a wing that's polished. And I'm not saying Kevin Durant because he's 37. It's very unlikely that your best player can be 37 and lead you over the promised land. Obviously, Wembanyama would be a sensational 2 or 1A, 1B, probably the second option. But I think they try to find someone else and leverage Fox's contract and say, you know what, like he's still a really good player. He's a near all-star player, but I don't think he's going to be good enough. And I see in the chat says Fox for Lowry. As a Jazz fan, I'd be disappointed because I wouldn't want Fox. I'd want the pick. But I do think there's a world where they try to go for a win now wing.
I think like people value the unknown. I think Dylan Harper brings more value in a trade than De'Aaron Fox. I also feel like Wembanyama put a little bit of extra pressure on San Antonio with some of the comments that he wanted to win. And I think if you look at the Thunder team, they were able to build their team because SGA was patient. Like he had some years where he didn't make the playoffs.
He wasn't playing.
Was patient. I felt like they were like sitting him out some games and so on. So I think that with Wembanyama kind of like hinting that he wanted to win, it made them make a trade that doesn't fit their timeline. And then if they bring Durant in, their timeline is all over the place. You got like 37, probably 27, and like
I think
21.
your timeline is now if you bring in Durant. I mean,
yeah,
as
definitely.
old as he is, like
KD can play another 10 years.
Oh, for sure. And
you make him a corner boy, like he's not leaving the corner.
He could be like Trey Lyles when he's 43. You know what I'm saying? Just a pick and pop 4 that can make some plays. But I mean, just the name alone of Kevin Durant is going to automatically put, that pressure for San Antonio to be winning now. Like you almost think that if they do make that trade, the pundits are going to pick them to be number 2 in the West automatically. Like, what do you think is going to draw more attention? And it's just kind of the nature of where we are in media and basketball. Like, if Kevin Durant is traded tonight, the internet is going to blow up. That's going to be more. That's going to draw more traffic than Jalen Williams going off for 40 just because it's Kevin Durant. But I think that for the sake of back to the mock, I think for the sake of all 3 of those guys, I'm a big Castle fan. I told Raf, man, every time I see you, Raf, which is every day, but I told you, man, Stephon Castle was a boy. I told you often.
Me
Leaf
too.
was there with me too.
Yeah,
But
you
I
act
told
like I said he wasn't. I just said he wasn't Brandon Roy.
with he's a boy.
He's good, but I
Yeah.
just wonder, like, do you get Castle played off the ball at UConn?
Yeah.
I love him having the ball in his hands. I would actually like him with the ball in his hands with a shooter like Trey Johnson around him. That's what I would like to see.
I want all my guys free, man. Free De'Aaron Fox, free Dylan Harper, free Castle. I just feel like Castle, like, if let's just say if Giannis, washes his face and is like, you know what, I want to get out, and he goes to Milwaukee, or he goes to San Antonio, and you trade for Dylan Harper and Castle, like those dudes,
they're not giving up both of them.
I mean, you still got, okay.
I mean, even then, though, two of those guys' contracts is less than probably what like Bobby Portis makes. I'm just
you got to throw in. But I just feel like Castle with the keys to the team is like a 25-5 guy pretty easily. Like, he's that good.
I would love him to be in the trade for Lowry. If we're talking Lowry to the Spurs, Castle is my first pick of who to take, even over Harper.
That Castle Isaiah Collier backcourt.
Oh yeah, we putting the free.
But it's gonna be Trey Johnson, hopefully.
Boxes and elbows.
but the thing is though, like, but I don't know. Here's the thing though. Like, at one point they were trying to put centers on Castle, and he was just blowing by him, and he's a good passer. So now we drawing and kicking, like, you're in trouble. I said 20 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. Mike Jones.
Mike Jones don't like numbers until it comes to him asking about Cooper Flagg shooting percentage.
Yeah, I don't know if Leaf is familiar with Mike Jones' game, but he's a generational hater. So
through the years,
yeah. But here we are. Since we got Mike Jones in here, the number 1 pick, the Dallas Mavericks, the clear-cut number 1 pick, future All-Star, Cooper Flagg. It's a no-brainer. Cooper Flagg got better as the season progressed. Ralph was doubting him. Actually, I'm putting you on the spot, Ralph. Cooper Flagg, is he a 3 or is he a 4? No. Is he a wing or is he a play finisher?
Me? I'm
asking you because you was doubting the sauce.
In a perfect situation, I want to see Cooper at the 4. That's what I want to see.
What's the 4 mean to you?
4
ball handling 4 or play off a guy, screener?
Yeah. But I feel like he has the most advantages at the 4. So
I don't feel like he's gonna have issues as the handle progresses. And there were flashes of him showing that the handle was going to be there. It needs more creativity. He needs more sauce off the dribble, but he gets low.
Does he?
He gets to the rack. And he's good with both hands. And the IQ is good where he understands that, like, if I beat my guy off the dribble, I can make a play. Matter of fact, I was running, since we on the chat and it's live, like, I was running the Carter Bryant film. Because I told you guys last night, who were here with us last night, I was like, yo, Carter Bryant's defense is overrated. And I ran the film, and I'm like, yo, he really could not check Cooper Flagg at all. And if you run the film, like, it was like bucket, assist. Like, there was no answer for him there. He guarded Cooper Flagg full court, full speed, left hand drive, hit Malouas for the layup. Like, Cooper Flagg is really legit. And the jump shot got a lot better. He's not afraid of the moment. I knew he was the goods. It's not like a epiphany, but like when he was singling out Kobe Bryant in that Kentucky game, he was like, yo, this 23
game 2 of the year, something like that.
Game 2 of the year, he was like, yo, this dude can't guard me. It was destined. And like I said, you think he's a glue guy, I think you're a hater. Like, he basically led the ACC. He was the freshman of the year in the country. Here's
the thing. Listen to this. Cooper got to do that against actual high-level talents. Cooper didn't face anyone going to the league at his position. Who did Ace Bailey face in the league at his position?
And I just told you he destroyed a dude that people think is going to be a top 10 pick.
Like this, I want you to answer this question. If Cooper didn't face anybody, then who did Ace Bailey face if Ace is the better player?
They played Bama would be the best answer there, but I completely agree with you. Cooper Flagg, but before turning 18 years old in his games against top 10 or top 25 competition before turning 18, averaged 26 and 12. So for those of you who are really hating on that, I think it's pretty ridiculous. But here's the other part about Cooper. I agree. I watched that film because I love Carter Bryant. I've been telling both you guys.
Hey, man, he's tricky,
Carter Bryant.
We'll talk about that. He's tricky, but go ahead.
Carter Bryant, and this is the point about Cooper Flagg, but Carter Bryant, my take was when at the beginning of the thing, it's like, who's a top pick that's being underrated, that's in the second round of mocks, and it was like Carter Bryant because the way he defends, he moves his feet and all this. But Cooper Flagg killed him in that game. To me, that didn't say as much about Carter Bryant as it did about Cooper Flagg being sensational. Like, he was able to pick on every advantage he created against someone who has physical ability to stay in front of him. Like, he at least looks the part like he could, and he couldn't. So I thought Cooper Flagg proved his thing.
I think Carter Bryant has what me and James call air muscles. Those guys that look strong, but it's no density in those muscles.
All right, so since we're here, Leaf, and this is why I think if you sit here and say, man, me and Leaf always see eye to eye, man. But here's my thing. If you give him a pass for getting destroyed by Cooper Flagg, we think is a perennial all-star. I get that. But if you dig deeper into the film, I was watching today that he was getting blown by Carter Bryant on straight line drives by Jaeger Dimon. And he isn't, I don't know, man, he just might be an in theory guy in all aspects of his game. And when you dig deeper into it, like, the difference between him and Drake Powell is like 0.5 stocks per game. The difference in field goal percentage is like 0.8%. And like when I watch the Drake Powell defensive tape, he's the length. First of all, Drake Powell's an athlete too. He's not cut up like, Carter Bryant, but like he's fighting over screens. He's not dying on screens. He's active in the passing lanes. He's making multiple efforts. I didn't see Carter Bryant making multiple efforts on defense. And like he dies on the screen. And we're talking about wings, right? And basically, like the if you're going to be a defensive minded wing in the NBA, you can't die on screens. You can't basically accept, like, Oklahoma City is giving you,
like, you gotta have a mentality.
And Oklahoma City is giving you the blueprint. You got to be like, if you watch the game tonight, Indiana was running offense at all logos, half court logo, finals logo, company logo, like they're in their face. When I watch Carter Bryant play defense again, maybe it's the scheme. He is not in anybody's face like that. And like I said, I feel like Drake Powell, if you take away those stocks, like, and it's not even necessarily a take it away, like he just averaged like half a block more. I feel like Drake Powell gives you the exact same thing. And, I feel like Drake Powell has more offensive game. He just got put in a bad role, whereas Carter Bryant was like, he's always been, well, not always, but, EYBL, high school. He's been that guy that just kind of floats out there. So I'm just trying to figure out, like, why is there a huge difference among mocks between Carter Bryant and Drake Powell?
What I love about Carter Bryant, and I've said this for a while, is you don't see people at his size with and maybe it is air muscles, but with that stature at his age, be able to slide as well as he can. Sometimes he gets caught on screens. I feel like that's a refinement of technique. When he's able to slide his feet and you just watch the way his body moves, it's unteachable.
But what about contact?
And I think if it is air muscle, you got a guy who is a freshman and he's going to get bigger and stronger. I think his body is more lengthy in the sense of it'll grow more. There's more room to grow. The shoulders are broader. Drake Powell is what he is athletically, and he's sensational. Drake Powell reminds me of like a mix of Christian Brown and Ochai Agbaji. He's somewhere in between what they are as athletes. I think Christian Brown was the more functional athlete than Agbaji. Agbaji was the more cut up like an Adonis type of guy that you'd be like, oh, he's a sensational athlete. And you see Carter Bryant and you see, oh, he could play the 4 even. And he moves like that. And that's what the intrigue is to me. And I think his shot looks good. And he reminded me, I think I said this to Rafael at some point, he reminds me a little bit of like Denver version of Jeremy Grant. Because he's not going to be the world's best defender at the 4 position. He's not going to be the best at sliding his feet against twos, but he can do enough of all of it, fits in different ways because he wasn't highly regarded in terms of the hierarchy that Arizona had. And I think that was honestly a poorly constructed roster the more you look at it. And he stepped in, shot the ball well in big moments, rebounded, slid his feet, guarded good players. So Carter Bryant, to me, is able to play 2 through 4 on defense very, very well and knock down enough shots more consistently than Drake Powell. And that's
is he physical and tenacious enough to maximize the physical tools? Like, to me, you can have that was the thing people loved about Patrick Williams, the tools and how young he was. And so I'm a guy that I kind of lean towards production over potential.
Let me ask you a question, Leaf. Mm-hmm. And this is not like a call out, but what's more valuable, defending 1 through 3 or 2 through 4 in today's NBA? Or am I just making something up?
I think it's pretty similar, because if you're going to guard 2, 3, and 4, and the one difference is you're probably just not going to be put on the one. I don't think it's something that he can't do. I think he actually laterally moves very, very well. I do think being able to guard the ball probably. So if you were to say 1 through 3, it's probably better. But what if that extra height allows you to play a different lineup and employ small ball because he's got the physical ability to put on weight and you don't sacrifice the rebounding would be my rebuttal.
I will say this. I do think Carter Bryant will be able to defend 4s better than Drake Powell. But, at the same time, I mean, there are some 4s. There are a lot of 4. Let's take an example. Pascal Siakam. Do I think he can guard? I don't think either of them stand a chance against guarding a Pascal Siakam, right? Just because, I just don't think so. Now he's more physically equipped to do it. But let me just read some numbers. I know, close your eyes, Mike Jones. You don't like numbers, I get it. But there's a less than 1% true shooting difference. Both are sub 70% free throw shooters, Drake Powell, Carter Bryant. Against pick and roll, according to Synergy, defenders shot 44% against Carter Bryant. Against Drake Powell, they shot 32%. And the film 100% backs it up. So I just kind of feel like Carter Bryant is in theory guy. In theory, he can shoot. In theory, he's a great defender. I don't know, man. I think people see muscles, man, and nice kid. And we kind of ignoring some of the basketball thing. And I wish I'd have did this research a little deeper than since I put my my mock out. But I don't know, man. I just kind of feel like there's not a huge difference. But
yeah, I just question if the defense is going to be the skill set to hang his hat on. And again, I've seen him give Trey Johnson fits. I just wonder, is he tenacious enough to live up to that role? And I mean, according to the chat, Cooper Flagg has no moves. He didn't play against anybody. He can't dribble, but Carter Bryant didn't want none of that. But everybody
Cooper Flagg had 27 on Houston. Houston is the toughest matchup in college basketball. They're old and physical.
Here's the thing about Cooper Flagg. If you guys don't think he has moves, I would urge you to watch him from game 1 to any game after he turns 18 and plays ACC play, where they're scouting every single move and every action, and watch Cooper Flagg's handles. And then he steps back and he's got these array of changes when he uses his pivots and his series hanging on a pivot, his between the legs reverse. So he's kind of got a Penny Hardaway move he started using.
You saw that spin move step back against Arizona.
Yeah, and he did that on Carter Bryant. He's got game, and his processing speed and ability to improve. I think I referenced this before, but Scalabrine is talking about how he's a supercomputer, and good players become great players by processing the game better, and they take a summer to process it. It takes Cooper Flagg an hour, and he starts implementing what he's worked on in an hour in a live game situation at 17 years old, at 18 years old. He's a supercomputer and an unbelievable competitor, and then he also has the traits as an elite athlete. So I think he's going to be an all-NBA guy. I think he's like Jason Tatum, but honestly, I like him more.
Carter Bryant's ceiling is DeAndre Hunter. Hunter went what, fourth?
Yeah.
Does he bring you top 4 value in a draft? And DeAndre Hunter, at least he had more of a
offensive game. He could score.
More of a resume. All right, let's answer some questions.
Yeah.
Your hate motor is great there, man. Mike Jones.
Mike
Jones swears that Cooper Flagg can't shoot.
Right.
The numbers say it, but Mike Jones, he don't believe in numbers. Mike Jones is the same guy that told me, what's my man's name that was a 28-year-old senior at Texas a couple years ago? and he kept saying he should be a first-round pick.
Sir Jabari Rice.
Yes. He was every post. All he talked about was Sir Jabari Rice. He got the best pump fake. I'm like,
His
dude,
pump fake was elite, no doubt about it.
Elite.
Pump fake was elite, but it was like the 2022 draft. And he graduated from high school in like 2016.
He did graduate in 2016 for sure.
Yeah.
Hey, they weren't calling him sir for no reason. It's because he was the OG.
All right, let's get some questions out.
Yeah, let's some questions, man. I probably got like 20 more minutes, man.
All right, here's a comment, and this is fair. I mean, someone compared Cooper Flagg to Andre Iguodala, and they don't believe that is worth the number one pick. Oh, hold on. He says you said Scoot was better than Wemby. I did not say that. I said I think he has a chance, and this was in like December 2021 that I said that. But then you can go back and look, and I got criticized for it heavily. I said Brandon Miller was better than Scoot Henderson when everybody was in love with Scoot. I mean, they were talking about me on Reddit and so on. I fell off the Scoot bandwagon a long time ago because you can go back and pull up the podcast. When every time I tried to watch him play, he was not playing. Every time he had some type of injury. So Scoot, I fell off the Scoot bandwagon a long time ago, and I'm a Blazers fan.
And the moral of the story is it's okay to change your opinion. It's okay, Mike, you don't got to ride this hater train. Please comment on Neek Clifford. He's top 10. I talked about Neek yesterday. I got Neek going to Oklahoma City. Whether you like him there or not, I feel like, I think they're going to win this series, but they're also going to have to pay people. And guys are going to get expensive. And I feel like Neek is good enough to, once they, trade and get under the tax when it's time for that, I feel like Neek can play for Oklahoma City. I think Neek is good. We just did a podcast earlier today that's out right now. I'm trying to figure out why Neek Clifford doesn't have a green room invite.
Yeah, he doesn't have a lot of holes in this game. When I look at players that just don't have a lot of weaknesses, he shot 37% back-to-back years. He rebounds. The one knock I had on him was he didn't get to the line enough, but he got to the line this year, almost doubled his attempts. So I like Neek a lot. What's your thoughts, Lee?
All right, I got one for you, Leaf. Regulator said, what will the Jazz do at 5 if Trey and Ace are gone?
I will be devastated. I think it's likely they would take VJ Edgecombe in that case. I will not be thrilled. I can at least talk myself into it. I'd rather take Fears in that case. And I might even be the point I'd rather take Khan, but I'm not sure. Khan's getting a lot of buzz recently with the Jazz, and he's actually in Utah right now. So
yeah, the Feds got him at Starbucks or something like that.
Working out against nobody. He won't work out against anybody. That's the word on the streets. It's some agents told me that.
I don't like it. I would rather take Fears because, I mean, we were on a podcast and it was like, man, this guy's just got confidence up the wazoo. His usage rate's crazy. He can get to the rim, do all these different things. And I'd rather have a chance at a star than a role player. You're drafting a role player at 5, which is fine with Khan or with Edgecombe. I don't see star in either of their futures. I think you're getting good role players. But I would be very frustrated if neither Bailey or Trey Johnson is there. My preference is Trey Johnson, so I'm hoping Ace goes 3. But if Ace is there at 5, it's a welcome gift to me.
All right, here's a question. Bogo, well, I call him Bogey. Markovich ain't got no love from you guys. Listen, man, we put out a podcast at least 5 days a week. I just did a podcast probably about a week and a half ago. I talked about the top international prospects. I like Markovich. I've seen him in person a few times. I saw him at a tournament back in 2022, and I had notes on him. He used to be real thin, but I liked just the versatility. I saw him at Basketball Without Borders in 2024 in Utah. So I like Markovich. I'm surprised he didn't go the college route because I think if he would have went to college, then he would have made a lot more money. I think right now he's going to be a second-round pick. But he's a guy that just has a lot of versatility. He's gotten better as a shooter, but I do like Bogey Markovich.
Hey, real quick before we answer another question, if anybody has never heard you talk, Leaf, why aren't you high on VJ Edgecombe?
Well, my reason begins with he blends in a sense where you would want him to be a star. And at Baylor, he had every opportunity to star. Scott Drew's given all of his guards and years the ball and chance to star, and it can lead to inefficiency. But he just blended in a way that I don't want a top 5 pick to stand out. I would argue with you guys, or not you guys in particular, but people who are high on him and say there's star potential, that you're just assuming because of athletic traits that he uses them. He is never attacking the rim as from the isolation. It is all off of a closeout or a design play, like a scissor cut where they pass it off to him downhill.
I'm not in my head because before you came on, James was basically saying Charlotte should take VJ because he provides more rim pressure than Trey Johnson.
But in a closeout situation, he does. Yes,
are the same.
Yeah, but see that's the thing. I don't disagree with that taking a closeout situation, but he has no ball skill. So let me continue with the reasons why I would not take the Jazz. The issue is Trey Johnson has all this game, and you say, oh, he can't get to a spot. Well, he can't get to the rim. He can get to a spot with no space. VJ is the beneficiary of other people going downhill, and they kick it out to him. Then all of a sudden, he just soars from like 15 feet, and you're like, wow, he drew a free throw.
Charlotte.
Wonderful. That's worthwhile in a sense, but that's a role player's job. It's not a star. What I want is a star for my Utah Jazz. I want someone who can change the franchise. Then the other thing is he also defensively is the most overrated player in this draft, because defensively you watch him play and you watch Con Knippel play, and you're going to say one of them is probably slow-footed, maybe a sneaky athlete, first one to get in the gym, blah, 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 all those tropes. But Con Knippel's a better collegiate defender than VJ Edgecombe. You watch his film, he gets beaten far less frequently. He rebounds just like VJ, and it's all these things. But also, VJ does not have any isolation game. And then if you were to ask what is his finishing percentage around the rim, it's like 30% if you take out dunks. That's 15th percentile for someone with all those athletic abilities. That 38.
Hold on. Mike Jones don't like when you use numbers.
Oh, well,
I got one more thing I want to add.
From the hoops watching standpoint, he goes through him and he soars in the air and he doesn't make the layup.
Yeah. That dunk on Mark Few's son has jaded people. I had to answer this question. MJ wasn't a star first year at UNC. Maybe it's that type of thing. Well, I think Michael Jordan played with a guy named James Worthy, who was the number 1 pick in the draft, and Sam Perkins what did Sam Perkins go?
5.
Yeah, so Michael Jordan was on a team that won the national championship, and they had 2 other guys that were selected in the top 5. I think Kenny
hit the game-winning shot too.
He hit the game-winning shot.
shot. Unless what's my man's name that transferred from Miami ends up going to be a number 1 pick.
Norchad Omier.
Yeah. Sam Perkins was the 4th pick.
My
in the
fault.
Draft. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, there's guys you just don't compare anybody to, and you don't compare VJ Edgecombe or anybody to Michael Jordan. We learned that with Deshaun Stevenson.
No. Actually, I mean, you compare Anthony Edwards to Michael Jordan if you want to, and even then, that's crazy. But
so yeah,
he's played on the team with Dylan, won the title. Oh wait,
Richard statements they give you. Mike Jones, man, you don't like numbers because it doesn't support your case.
Yeah,
I get it, man. I get it.
It's okay to change your mind, though, man. Like I did a complete 180 on Jace Richardson. I was first team. Oh man, he's too little. I don't know what he's doing. And then I'm like, you know what? He's just really, really good.
Yeah, I'm torn on that one. I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on Jace, because I love watching him play, but you don't see so many 6'1" guards, and the only real testimony to it is Jared McCain's success recently.
And that's why I'm like, you know what? I overthought Jared McCain, and if there's enough playmaking ability. We know he can score. We know he can shoot. Super efficient at the rim. I know Mike Jones don't like numbers, but in a situation I would have loved if they kept the pick, Orlando taking Jace Richardson, because I feel like he fits what they're trying to do. I'm not taking Jace Richardson to run my team because the point guard, the point guard skills aren't there for me. For him, he's not going to run the team. He's more of a combo guard. And as good as Jared McCain is, I think that he's a 6th man, and he's going to be a really good 6th man. Whether or not him and Maxey can play together, they're going to try to figure that out. But I just feel like Jace Richardson, the biggest knock, and it is a big knock, is that he's short. But everything else on the offensive end, like he does well. And I think in the right situation, I think he's going to be good. I almost even think that, I got him going to Miami at 20. And I think that he fits in Miami because Tyler Hero's going to handle the ball and Bama is going to handle the ball. So I'm not asking him to shoulder the responsibility of running my team.
Mike Jones is obsessed with Richard Stamen. He's mentioned his name like 5 times. Richard's not even here. Get off his balls, man.
Marcus Sasser vibes. I get that.
So here's my thing about Jason McCain. McCain had an 8-game stretch as a starter where he was really, really good. I think that got Jace some money.
But Jace, on top of Jace being really good too.
He's the toughest eval for me because, and I asked someone close to him, did Michigan State hold him back or did they put him in the perfect situation to succeed? What are your thoughts about that, Leaf?
Well, when he started becoming the clear-cut best player on the team, Michigan State started playing their best basketball, and Tom Izzo elevated him into the starting lineup, and Michigan State became a 2 seed out of becoming probably the 20th ranked team in the country prior to that. So I would argue he was put in a situation to succeed early and come off the bench. Then he had an elevated role and still succeeded at a very high level on a team that made the Elite Eight. It wasn't like a flash in the pan. Oh, they lost in the second round. No, they made the Elite Eight because he was their best player and their offensive top weapon. Yes, they had an egalitarian attack. They had a team that had multiple players that you could have to scout and say, okay, they're possible. But number one option on a team as a freshman that's a 2 seed in the Elite Eight is not typical, especially from a 6'1" guard who is, you wouldn't say otherworldly athletic despite having a professional father who was a tremendous athlete in the NBA. Like, I think it's a misnomer when people talk about his athleticism just as a given because of his dad. Like, he's quick and he's kind of flexible. Like, the way he dribbles, he stays really low to the ground. There's a lot of things he does very well that are athletic, but they're not in the same vein of the way we talk about VJ Edgecombe's athleticism and bounce and just pure stride length and all that. So the reason that Jace is so interesting to me is because how many teams will even give him a chance because you're going to think, 6'1's got to be a point guard, but he's a 2 guard. And so I'm curious to see how many people will give him that fair shot. And I think he's one of those guys who probably outperforms his draft slot because a team that takes him is going to be able to envision the way to utilize him most efficiently. And I think he may drop a couple spots and end up in a redraft in the top 10, or someone's going to take him early and be all analytically driven because his analytics are through the roof. And they're going to put him in a bad position to succeed and say, you know what, he's a point guard because he's small, and that's just not the way he plays. So I'll be curious to see where he lands, but that's kind of the way I see it with him.
What are your thoughts on him not getting a green room invite? They gave out 19 invites. James and I just did a podcast on that, and he's not one of the 19. What are your thoughts on that?
I was surprised by he and Neat Clifford not getting there. So those were the two that stuck out to me. I was a little surprised that you could tell me Will Riley would get one. I wouldn't be surprised, but I was surprised Will Riley got one over those two guys. And that's kind of what stuck out to me. I'd imagine that they would have gotten some, and a guy like Will Riley would fall out, or a Thomas Sorber would fall out.
What about Liam McNeely?
And McNeely's an interesting one to me because I think McNeely's a good basketball player, but I was talking to some guys, and maybe he's a shooter who can't shoot after all. Apparently in the workouts, he just didn't shoot particularly well. And so Rafael would give me an I told you so if so. But and honestly, if that's the case, then fair enough. But he shot 43% when his feet were set on a team that prioritized movement shooting. So maybe in an NBA role, if you just say, hey, sit your feet and you shoot a 3 in the corner, if he shoots 43%, I still like him. But if he doesn't, then it limits his upside, obviously.
All right, I'm going to read some of the comments. People said Jalen Brunson was too small, too. That's fair. That is totally fair. I think totally different games. Brunson is definitely an overachiever, but he had a great resume. The size thing is always going to be a concern. I think the size thing is the only reason why he hasn't had a green room invite. It's just because statistically, if you look at the numbers, not too many guys were more efficient in the different spots on the floor than Jace Richardson. So I am shocked at that. All right, let me read this. Do you believe the Hawks are trying to trade up to get Ace? No. Everything I've heard, the Hawks are trying to trade up to get Molly Welch. I mean, they would have to get up to at least number 3 to get Ace, and I don't even know who they have to give up to get that high unless they're trying to trade Jalen Johnson, which to me that doesn't make sense.
I'm not trading Jalen Johnson for Ace Bailey, though.
Will Riley and Liam McNeely aren't in my top 30. Riley's in my top 30. McNeely is not. What if Charlotte drafted Molly Walsh and traded their back-to-back second rounders to draft Jace? That could be a great combo fit. I like Molly Walsh in Charlotte. I mean, like I've said all along, you cannot bring Mark Williams back to Charlotte unless you want to go at Nurkic. I don't know. All right, here's a question for you guys. Here's a question for you guys. ESPN is high on Joan Bettinger, and he did not get a green room invite. And I haven't seen ESPN's mock in a while, but I know at one time, I think they had him at like 12 or something like that. What are your thoughts on that, Leaf?
He's one of those guys where it feels like the French success of some players creates this natural polarization of how he's viewed. Because, yes, there's the Wembanyamas, but for every Wembanyama, there's been plenty of European guys that have been overhyped. And last year, Tidjane Salaün came in. It was nowhere near ready, but he had that one game where he had 20 points in the playoffs of that league, and he made winning plays in the fourth quarter, and he worked his way up to number 6. I like Tidjane Salaün a fair amount. And then I watched him in the front row, watching him shoot warm-ups, and it looked like he was new to basketball. Like,
man, I told you, Leaf. I told you when he shot the ball and it hit the top of the backboard from the wing, that was the red flag that I needed. I'm like, yo, how do you do that?
I watched him warm up at the Jazz versus Hornets game, and I was sitting next to this guy who used to coach at BYU, and I looked at him and said, oh, that guy does not look like he knows how to shoot a basketball. I wonder if they're retooling it because it doesn't look the same. So the reason about the French, the hype is like Bilal Coulibaly the year before that would be a success story, a testimony for why you take guys who perform well in these. I'm personally a believer in Noah Essengay for a different reason, because he plays with force that many of these slender guys have not done. And he goes to the line at an elite rate and all that stuff, and he gets there. As in the case of Berenger, I don't love his tape enough, but I think you can pick him lower. I wouldn't see him in a green room situation. I wouldn't be stunned though if a team says, you know what, this will remind me of Coulibaly or something like that. And you have the Pacome Dadiers of the world where he's a late first and you bank on upside. So I think he's going to be more similar to Dadier than a few of the others that have preceded him.
Speaking of my French homies, Ralph has Nolan Traore as a lottery pick. What do you think about Nolan Traore? I got him in the 20s.
I think I have him 14 or 15. So
you're in the middle.
Yeah, I'm right in the middle there. I still like what he does well. He puts pressure on the rim. He's a creative passer. He's still got the burst that I think is impressive. He's a guy I really loved his tape last year. I think this year it's under more scrutiny because he's not novel. If he were novel and he had these numbers, I think people would still like him. It's just that he hasn't improved, and therefore it's more under scrutiny.
All right, there's a comment. Remember, Stoudemire was not even 6 foot. Talking about Damon Stoudemire. I will say this much. You saw more smaller guards play in that era simply because you only really guarded your position. In today's NBA, you have to guard all over the floor. There's a lot of switching. And when I think about the switching in today's NBA, think about like you never saw Jordan like switched out on like Ewing. You never saw Jordan or Mutombo switched out on Jordan. In today's NBA, if you're a center, you're going to spend time getting switched out on the guard. And if you're a small guard, they're probably going to attack you. So I think one of the reasons why smaller guards, it's just been harder for them to succeed is just because, one, you have to be like super special, like really, really, really special. I mean, you look at Kennedy Chandler. I liked Kennedy Chandler. He ended up getting, I think at the time, he got like
a guaranteed deal,
guaranteed money for a second round pick, and he was out of the league like super fast. Ty Washington was a first round pick, and I don't even know if he's played 25 NBA games. The league is very hard on smaller guards, and you just have to be like really gifted on the offensive end to make up for your size. However, I do think there is a small guard in this draft that I believe is going to stick and play a long time, and that is Ryan Nembhard.
I love Nembhard.
Real quick. It says, yes, if they're elite in their role skills. What is Jace elite skill outside of shooting? Jace is very efficient in the paint. I believe he has some of the best floater numbers in the country.
Yeah, I think he shot a higher percentage at the rim than Dylan Harper. Yes,
he's in the 60s.
How they finished was different, but just you know.
Nah, he's legit.
I mean, he's
good.
got a reverse layup package, much like Harper. They both hang in the air and kind of use the angles and use their bodies really well.
Core
And
strength.
both of them, you can tell they've been schooled from a young age on how to use their bodies. Like their parents were pros and they know what the finishing looks like, and it looks obvious that they've done it for a long time. I think that Jace is going to be a good shooter and a good slasher in the NBA. The question is if a team lets him be a 2 guard or if they make him try to be a point guard. And that's the only way I really see him struggling. And I love Nembhard, by the way.
Yeah. All right. Marquise Noel has struggled too. Mr. New York City was phenomenal during that
He couldn't
NCAA
shoot
tournament
though,
run.
man.
Hey, you know what? We stood next to him randomly in Indianapolis All-Star Weekend. He really might be like 5'5".
Hey, you know what's crazy? I saw at the airport, I saw Muggsy Bogues, you know, they have all the All-Star Weekend like stuff. I was like, man, somebody ready to get their little punk little middle school kid off the rim dunking in the airport. Like, you know, those rims are like 9 feet tall and like they're not real rims that you shoot on. Man, turned around, it was Muggsy Bogues. I was like, man, get out of here, man. You really 5'2". And like Muggsy Bogues in today's NBA, they walking him to the free throw line. And you know, like tonight, TJ McConnell got caught on the switch with SGA, and it was like 3 back down dribbles, and it was 6'6" shooting over the top of 6'2", and it like killed the run because, you know, as dynamic as TJ McConnell is, like, you know, your big guard is going to raise up and shoot over the top of him.
Yeah.
Who's y'all pick for the Grizzlies at 16, Leaf?
I haven't thought about it since the trade. I'd ideally like to get some shooting back to replenish the stock that Bane left. I'd consider if Cedric Coward's there, I don't know if he makes it out of the lottery. I'd consider the likes of guys of that ilk that are kind of two-way wings. I haven't thought about it a ton. Nick Clifford's a good pick at there as well because he's very solid. He reminds me of Jalen Wells a little bit of what they had last year, except he's, I'd say, a more well-rounded player coming out than Wells was. Wells just is a very good shooter and has length. And so those are the guys that come to my mind to begin with, but I hadn't really thought about it.
I went with Colin Murray Boyles at 16, and I feel like he gives you a different look in your front court if you feel like Zach Edey in drought coverage is not going to cover it. It's not going to work. I feel like Colin Murray Boyles and Jaren Jackson switching in the playoffs is the kind of havoc that you would want to have.
I don't know if they're making the playoffs soon, though. I think they could have a little bit of a fire sale.
Do you think they're going to lean towards a fire sale?
Either that or they're not really good enough to make the playoffs in the next year after losing a guy like Bane. I don't see him making the playoffs next year. Question regarding Colin Murray Boyles, though. Okay. He's a guy that I can't make up my mind because if you put him in the ideal situation and he somewhat resembles Draymond Green, he's a steal of the draft in the sense of he's not a great shooter and he's not going to wow you with rebounding and those type of stats, but it's going to be all intangibles. But how many teams can really put a player like him and say, you know what, we're going to build around you? Like the Warriors build around Steph Curry, of course, and his gravity, but Draymond Green makes it very possible in the way that they orchestrated this whole thing, and he became a vital lifeblood of that. I don't know how many teams can see that. There's going to be teams that try to envision it, and it doesn't work. So I feel like he's got a lot of upside if he's used properly, but there's a lot of faults and warts that become very, very apparent when he's trying to shoot the ball because not all the teams can exploit those weaknesses other teams have like he could if he were to be Draymond. So I'm a little bit lower on him than most, but I'm starting to see the vision. Is it crazy to have him about 20? Is it too low?
I got him at 16. I can't put him in the lottery. I know the analytics love him, but I just feel like an at the rim 4, as dynamic as he is on defense, he's an at the rim 4 who can't shoot. And like Draymond is a one of one. As great as Draymond is, what does Draymond Green look like at 22 years old coming out of Michigan State if he's not drafted by the Golden State Warriors?
I think he would have been fine because Draymond,
I think he would have been fine.
He's going to hold everybody accountable. He's going to work the refs. He's going to do everything. To me, Draymond Green is the perfect example of a guy that maximized every single ounce of his God-given talent.
I get that, but I also think that a lot of it was divine. it was perfect that he landed in Golden State, where they weren't doing things like everybody else. And David Lee got hurt, and when they ran the numbers, Mike Jones hates analytics, but like he was their best player. And then they had the nuts to play him at the 5, and he had the talent, the wingspan. He's the best defender, I think, of the past like 30 years. And I just feel like everything worked out in place for them.
So I got a Draymond story.
Davis.
All right, I got a Draymond story real fast.
Go ahead.
So I gained respect for Draymond, and I told a Poku story yesterday. So this is my story today. 2015, Mo Williams had a group of guys.
I was there.
Come into what he called Grind Week, and NBA players came in from all over the country, and they just came to work out and play. So Raymond Felton was there. Thad Young was there. Who else was there?
Obviously, Draymond was there.
Draymond. And it was some other NBA guys there, right? So it was an organized game, but they had refs. And Draymond was like, I need these guys. And it was 4 guys that played like low-level D1 basketball. And Draymond had all the pros on the other team. And they literally beat the NBA guys because Draymond was, when I say he put a battery in those guys' back, he was telling them that they were better. Yeah, man, you better. He can't guard you. He can't guard you. He was literally pumping these guys up. He was working the refs. And he was telling the refs, like, hey, man, watch out for that. This is what he's going to do. Watch the hand swipe coming right here. All right, he pulled his jersey. He's like literally working the refs. He's telling every player on the team, every NBA guy's go-to move, what he likes to do. Watch his left foot. All right, when he moves his left foot that way, he's going to do this. He's going to do that. So long story short, they ended up winning. And the way he was working the refs, the refs were like changing calls because they were scared of him. And Mo goes up to the ref and he says, everybody is working on their game right now. And he's like, part of Draymond's summer workout is he's trying different things to work the refs to see if it works. And these were like NBA refs. And that's when I gained a respect for him, just because he made everybody around him better. He didn't take a single shot. Like, it was literally like, get the ball, dribble handoff, hard screen, guy gets open for a shot. Set a screen, boxing out 2 or 3 guys so another guy can get the rebound. So it's like the little things that don't show up in the box score with Draymond that makes him Draymond. And it's hard to compare anybody to Draymond because of those intangibles. But anyway, CMB, tough for me. I want to ask you this, Leaf. Nobody watches more college basketball than you. In your opinion, why isn't Colin Murray Boyles getting flack for being on a terrible team that other prospects have received for not winning? So I think it's like, if you like a guy, you'll be like, oh man, it was his teammates. But not everybody gets that pass.
Well, I think the pass is because he's a returner, whereas that's a one and done's issue. You talk about the Markelle Fultz, the Ben Simmonses, all these ones had to defend that answer. You could say it about the Rutgers duo because they're one and dones and you expect them to be fantastic. It's because he has a range. Some people have him number 2 or 3 on their board and some have him 20 to 25. And it's the people that are thinking about it at 2025, like myself. I don't fault him for having a bad team because that team was horrible. In fact, it was such an amazing job by Lamont Paris, the coach of South Carolina, to make it to a 6 seed last year. And then they lost all their talent and they had to redefine how they played, and they played even slower, and they played with him in the post. And you look at that, and their next best players, you'd probably take Michi Johnson. And it's like, oh, well, that's interesting because now he's gone, and he's on the back and forth between Ohio State. So they just didn't have any chemistry. They didn't have the talent, and the SEC was so good that you weren't able to find and scavenge wins. Like, you had to earn every single win, and to be close in those games, great. So I think that's part of the reason that it's gone not spoken about. But also, he's not the type of guy that can light up a scoreboard. I know he put up points, so don't come after me for that. But he's not the type of guy you're drafting to light up a scoreboard, where I think it's a criticism for those type of guys like the Anthony Edwards, the Markelle Fultzes of the world, that, their team, they scored a ton, but their team's lost. That's the criticism, as opposed to him. It's an intangibles pick. So the team just wasn't good enough, and he couldn't perpetuate the ugly duckings into the NCAA tournament in the loaded SEC.
I just think if there were some other guys that the roles were reversed. All right, let's just flip it and say Ace Bailey. If Ace Bailey played for South Carolina and they were like 2-18 in the SEC, people would label him a loser.
Yeah, no, I agree, but that's why I think it's because he plays a flashy score first type of basketball, and then they say, oh, he doesn't care about winning or something. I think it's apparent he cares about winning because he's so good defensively. They just didn't have the talent.
Yeah, and I've also heard some people say that the only reason why they were even close to being competitive was because CMB was so good. All right, any more questions? Let me see. RK says, I heard that Draymond was killing everybody in his pre-draft class workouts. I can see that. I mean, I think it's like it was probably one of those things where he was just getting in people's head and pushing people to the limit where they wanted to fight him, but they probably didn't want to fight him because they didn't want to ruin their draft stock. And I mean, I just think it's all about the mind game. And like I said, he has maximized every ounce of his talent. When you go back in history, you're going to be like, how was that guy so good? He was small. He wasn't jumping over anybody. He had like 1.5 years where he shot the ball good from three. Some people are going to say it's who he played with, but I think he's like that connector that can elevate other teams. All right. Any more questions? Let's see. A lot of comments. CMB equal Dylan Brooks. Dylan Brooks can shoot.
I don't know about that.
He's a good enough. He's a good enough shooter where you're like, he can make some shots and get hot.
Yeah, but he'll shoot you out of a game.
Hey, I like it. I mean, Dylan Brooks is a guy that his irrational confidence is what keeps him in the league.
I don't disagree with that, but I don't think he's a good shooter.
Yeah. He's a better shooter than CMB.
I agree with that.
Somebody asked, are we going to be live during the draft? Me and Ralph will be in Brooklyn. We don't know, man. We're trying to figure out what we're going to do. But you'll definitely hear from us.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely got to do a pod, but it just depends on the setup. I mean, if we're going to be at the Barclays, is it going to be loud? I feel like being in New York and going live from your hotel room kind of defeats the purpose of being in New York.
I can do that from here.
Yeah, so it just depends on the Barclays, but we will be there, and yeah, even then, like I think it would be whack of both of us to just be on one computer.
No, I'm not sitting next to that dude.
Yeah, so all right, one more question. Same time tomorrow? Nah,
I need to sleep, man.
I don't know. Maybe me and Leaf can do a live tour. I actually like going live. I like answering questions. I mean, the episodes can be a little bit long. But James said he only had an hour, and here we are, hour 37, and I can still go on forever. So
I don't have that motor like that.
All right, here's a question. How many wins would Rutgers have, more or less, if they swapped Khan out with Ace? That's on you, Leaf.
I think they'd be marginally better, but I don't think it adds to many more wins, to be honest, because that team was really devoid of talent outside their top two. I think that Khan's stability and ability to just constantly get you 15 is probably better than Ace's volatility of 39 or 6, and I'm being very drastic in those comparisons and examples, but it's like something he actually did. But the issue then would be Khan had Cooper Flagg creating for him, and they had Common Malwatch under the rim, and they had all these talented players, and he would get the ability to attack closeouts, play off 2 feet, and be crafty and throw to competent players. And all those heady and tangible plays he made are celebrated because he could throw those to willing and able players. I think that Ace Bailey is not a good passer, but part of his not being a good basketball passer is because he knows he's a better shot creator than the open shot for some of those guys. Like it was a very poor team, and I would say they maybe win a game or two more because they're somewhat steadier. And also Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper both had moments where they were playing by themselves. The other one was missing time. And so if Con Knippel's consistency is what would also buy them extra wins.
Leaf, where's Con Knippel at on your board?
7 or 8 right now. I think 8.
So I have him. I forgot where I have him on my board.
got him
I have him
10.
going 12 to Chicago, and some people think that's too low. James has him going 10.
To the Rockets if they keep.
I honestly think he might go as high as he might go in the top 5.
Please not to my Jazz.
I'm
that's
serious.
what they say, man. They route every white guy ever to the Utah Jazz.
Yeah,
so.
if you're white, you're gonna be mocked to the Jazz. I mean, but here's the thing. I mean, from what I'm hearing, he's just not working out against anybody. That's what I'm hearing. I heard about the Utah workout. Somebody was like, "Man, he didn't miss a shot. He was shooting over." I was like, "Was there anybody guarding him?" They were like, "No, he worked out by himself." I'm like, "Yeah, that's what I've been hearing is that he's doing all solo workouts."
Do
all right,
you
last
guys
question.
do streams often? Nah, we don't do live streams.
This is our second live. This is our second live, but it's actually fun to interact. I know, like yesterday, I was shocked when I woke up in the morning, like over 700 people watched it between midnight and 7 a.m. So, all right, here's the last question. Any info on Hornets workouts? I haven't heard anything, but I think they're bringing in they got a pretty wide range of guys that they're bringing in. I think it's going to be different than years past. I actually heard maybe 2 or 3 years ago before the front office changed that some agents weren't sending their guys to Charlotte to work out. They just didn't like the situation or the structure. But I think with the new GM and the new ownership group, I think that has changed. They'll be able to get guys in. All right, well, that wraps up this live. So, you know what? I'm not going to make any promises, but if you follow me on Twitter, you can check it out, Barlowe 500. I will let you know tomorrow if we go live again, but I really enjoy going live. I love interacting with everyone. All right. It's Rafael, James, and Leaf, and we are out of here.
Go pick up a calculator, Mike Jones. It's okay.